I'm so bad at filming stuff. So today we're in the shop again and we are modifying my snowmobile trail groomer, ski trail groomer, whatever you want to call it. So basically it's got an old pressure tank on the front that rolls to pack the snow in the front. I got a piece of conveyor belt for my spring. The geometry of the hitch is close enough-ish. And I've got 2 scraper bars in the front, 2 in the back, and then I didn't do a pan, but I've got an old piece of grater blade that's cupped downwards and hangs lower to help pack it in. So today I'm adding a few things to it. I'm extending it by 2 feet, roughly, because I found it wasn't long enough. It kept, it wouldn't fill in humps. It was short enough it would go through a hump and come back out the other side. So this extra length should help with that. And then I'm gonna add in this container that I've had lying around forever and done nothing with. That's gonna go in there for holding tools. I'm gonna put something for the axe, something for the shovel. I got a piece of 1/4 by 2. I'm gonna use that to make some little cutting edges to put on here. And then I might do some expanded metal to make kind of like a hybrid between a pan and a willow brush killer thing on the bottom. Right. Extended, reinforced. We got our kind of blades, soft material, but blades. I'm gonna slap this thing, I think, right there. Like that. That's gonna reinforce the front of this. I'm actually gonna cheat it in to there, and then these sharp edges I'm hoping are gonna catch some willows and rip them out. Well, I measured my bin and made this thing to hold it, but I didn't take into account that these things taper out, so the deeper it goes the wider it needs to be. So gave her the good old snip there, beat on it with a hammer, and now it fits. All right, done again. So I got a basket on there, so if you need to bring extra fuel or something, you can fit, probably almost fit 2 cans side by side. They're really squished in there. But yeah, you have room for whatever else. Basically, it's just, I made it that long because it goes from this support underneath there to that support. And then this is all just scrap material. You can see how stitched together it is. And then I got, put some, you know, massive washers on here to beef this up. And now, this thing has 101 different clips on it. So now this opens up, and that's a big tote or bin, whatever, for all your activities. First test run. So I got all the chainsaw stuff, chainsaw box, gas, oil, everything in there. My lunch kit. Put the chainsaw in the back. See what happens, and I'm going to test it first with as little resistance as possible. Made it home. Did a couple passes around here, and you know what? It works pretty good. Works pretty damn good. It's just high enough that we're not getting too much snow. And we are getting snow. Snow in the chainsaw. I don't like that, but that's just temporary. That was just to get it here. Ideally, you have something right on the sled. Well, the hiking trail has seen better days since our little tornado that came through here. I figured, well, I stopped over there. Okay, I'll just get that tree that's out of the way. And there's another one, another one, another one. Groomer's doing a pretty good job, considering have it just set for basically panning it. It's not cutting. Pull a rock right out. That's a good sized stone. Amazing how even at -20, once you get working, you gotta start shedding layers. This is why layering is important. So far so good. She's working. So I'm only cutting the trees that are stopping me from going through. Like, I'm only cutting out chunks big enough to get through, and if I had to guess, it's gotta be like 25 more trees. Maybe I've done 2/3 of one of our loops. You just see all the trees that are knocked down. I'll give you a little perspective. So right across there, the house is like right there. See that white piece of ridge around the trees? That's where the house is. That didn't go well. Coming up the hill here, making the corner. So this thing, when you're pulling, it always wants to flip the sled over on you. So this is kind of a turn in an uphill, and I got wound up in the willows. And I just gave her the beans. The beans flipped me over, set me on her side. Willows are insane. Absolutely nuts. This thing's doing pretty good. You can see all the sticks and everything that are getting caught up on here. Getting caught in the teeth to rip them out. So far working pretty. How do I have a rock in here? Where did you come from? And how? So we're in the true back 40 here. And this is one first single pass with the groomer. Nice and smooth. It does cut pretty aggressive. All in all, for version 2 right now, I would say it's probably like a, I'd say it's like a B, maybe a B+. There's always room for improvement. All right, back in the shop again today. And the plan B, we're gonna add an arm with a spring and more of that expanded metal stuff that'll come up, I don't know, 5-6 feet, and then it'll cut willows, and then if it catches, it'll flip down. That's the plan. Here we are. So what ended up doing, so the same way that I have the expanded metal with the sharp edges here for grabbing willows and ripping them off, I did the same thing here on an arm. What I found too is the willows poke through here, and this is super sharp. Every single one of these is sharp. So the willows actually come through, get caught, and they're basically breaking off along in here too. You can see they're all shredded and mangled. So I left this extra wide in hopes that maybe they would finger themselves through there and rip off. Found a spring upstairs, put a couple chain links to hold that in. And then the mechanism allows it to go to basically a 45, and then it flips back up there. The only thing I'm worried about is I'm worried about it flipping up so far and then popping this spring right off. I might have to adjust this to make it have more spring tension ahead, but I already added a little bit more spring tension to it by, I'll show you how this all works. So this is basically, if I'm not going to use it, I just pop the spring off, and then I've got this pin down here, which actually, if you come down a little bit, it gets loose right there. Pin comes out. This arm can swing all the way down and sits kind of in the edge of the drag there. That's why I have it cut to this weird angle. And then your pin goes back in, and it just is enough, in theory, that'll keep this from totally bouncing right out, because then now it's hitting right in there. Well, found the weak link. My 2 welds here popped off. I didn't have good fusion. She's pretty heavy. And I've seen some bent pins in my day, but this one, that's pretty bent. And I actually had to hammer this to be more straight to get it so I could disconnect the groomer from the snowmobile. It just absolutely pinched it. I have to grind that down. Welder top, maybe flip it over, weld the bottom side, because then I can do a long big weld, but then we're relying on this weld, right? So I mean, we only have so much to play with here. I didn't show this before, but I did move where I added another link down here to make it a little tighter, and then I actually just tack welded on a little piece of scrap just that this spring can't come out. So when it's under tension, and if all of a sudden it broke, this doesn't go launching out into the snowbank somewhere and you never find it. which helped because I didn't lose it. It just hangs down nicely like that. It's the story of my life is build it, overbuild it from what you think, test it, break it, just beat on it, and then eventually you just keep adding enough to it that it's nice and strong. The worry with this thing though is it has to be strong and light because you got to pull with snowmobile up hills and stuff. So. Time to kill a couple stumps with the axe. All right, 2 less stumps. These things are brutal. Well, found the next weak link, which I kind of knew was going to happen. That should be connected right there. So now I gotta try and limp this out of the bush and get her back and welded, and I guess reinforced. Well, she's unstuck, and I strapped the heck out of it. Now here's hoping. Well, plates are in. Alrighty, so more reinforcements. So yeah, got these plates in, got that all beefed up. Added a brace in here because then I'm assuming this is going to rip off now, or want to, because now I have 2 springs. So you can see that's a second one of this spring. This is the original one I had on there, and it's stretched already. Now we have 2 of them. So now this thing has like major kerchonkin ability. The pin I had in here, I just had a hitch pin type deal. Because the idea was you'd pull it out, you tip it down when you don't want it, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was too soft, and it just bent it, like, horribly. I had to cut it out. So, I have a grade 8 bolt in there now. And then I just added more weld on the top of here. So, that's kind of the stopper. That blob of weld hits on that. And then with the bolt, I was actually able to crimp this in a bit, too, make it tighter. She's got a bit of a lean in it, too, already from catching branches. But it was working. So I dropped this down. So basically this is just rolling at the same height as what these blades are cutting. So you can see they're actually cutting a lot. And it takes out a lot of willows now. That, and then it kicks up a bunch of them, kind of flip up, and the back takes them out. I did break off the willow killer arm again. It bent the mount all to hell. But it's bending from flying forward. Got my machete, the fiskers, and I'm on willow killing duty. We love these. We use these all the time. You can get them for, I don't know, I think probably under 50 bucks on sale. Canadian Tire. And they just cut like butter through the willows. They got the nice little hook end on it. And yeah, you can just absolutely annihilate them. Expanded metal. It kills a lot of them. But it helps if you can go both directions. On this part of the trail here, I can only really go one way because there's a nasty kind of corner and a hill and then another hill. So I'm always going one way. So you'll see all these are folded down that direction. If I could come the other way, it would flip them over and break a lot of them off. So I've owned this property here for, I don't even know, probably, I want to say I was 20 or 21 when I bought it. So even let's say, 6 years or something like that. 6-7 years. And it never gets old. It never gets old. walking around, especially because it's only 92 acres, so it's like half of a quarter, like a quarter section. But because it's just all, you know, big tall ridges and valleys and swamps and sloughs, and you kind of follow the ridge lines, and like there's another ridge system on the other side of the black spruce swamp there. It just walking around on a day like today, and it's just, you know, you just love it. Adventure time. Got the blade off the old Kodiak. We have virtually no snow this year, so usually we go for snowmobile rides, Tegan and I, and go to shelters and warm-up shacks, have some snacks and hang out and whatever. And can't do any of that this year, so busted the quad back out, and we're gonna go putt ski around with this and have a bonfire, have some moose sausage, and see where the day takes us. Found ourselves a beautiful spot towards the back of the property here. No wind, sun shining. Dragged out some wood, get a fire going. I've been here before. We were laughing. I said to Tegan, I'm pretty sure I had a fire here before. Pretty much in the same spot. I said, you'll probably find my old stick from roasting sausage before. So we found, there's the stick, and then over there is the tree that I cut it off from. So I had the same great thought probably like 5 years ago when I was back here. So my great mind thinks alike, apparently, from year to year. Found a couple sticks. Tegan found the chips. It ain't much, but this is what makes hillbillies happy. Right, Tegan? You got fire, you got mustard, cheese strings, and sausage. And ATVs. It's a full-blown blizzard right now. This is more what we're used to. Oh, it's like dumping snow. There's a storm that blew in overnight. Dogs don't know what to think. When we thought winter was over, we were getting full-on BC style, like nuked on. This is insane. Welcome back to 80 Acres. Today we had, or yesterday, we had a whole bunch of snowfall. By a whole bunch this year, that means about 6 inches or so. And that means we are back out with the old work sled and the homemade groomer. As you can see, this is only one pass. You can see it's not totally packing it down. It's still got kind of that flakiness to it. Almost looks like cooked fish. It's not quite tabletop, but for what I'm doing, it's fine. Well, I think today is the day we get rid of this rock, or at least try to. I just gave her a couple hits and she seems to be breaking apart half decent, so see if we can get her at least flatter. Oh, this is what keeps you in shape. I forgot too, another reason why getting it groomed and everything is so nice. A lot of these trails I'm using for logging as well, right? So like this is where I was hauling out all the firewood from going down the trails there with the quad. So if it's packed down nice, you can, you know, haul bigger loads for later, similar to when guys are, you know, doing real logging out in the woods. They kind of make ice roads and winter roads, and they either grade them or plow them, but a lot of times they'll pack it all down first, make a base, and then they grade off the snow that goes on top. So that's kind of what we're doing here too. Is going on. Some days, terrible at this YouTube thing. You all probably remember the Groomer from last year. From here back, pretty much the same. This is what I've been working on today. So I removed the roller tank from the front, which slotted on here and could adjust up and down. And I've built a more standard style of adjustable blades, I guess you could say. So you can see there now, we've got height up off the ground. This is just a load binder, and basically you're just using it as a screw. Here, I'll throw it in wide angle. So basically I've just copied other brands online that I've seen. Don't mind this. This is just a cheater for welding up here because I didn't want to transfer through the bolt. That'll come off. Yeah, we can go down. About there. So that is the point at which now, right there, it's got all the weight on the front blades. And then the way that they do these is they do it with a little articulated jobby here. So presumably this now allows it, you set it something like that, so that's while you're dragging. So this can go up a little bit and float some, which then I believe will allow the front blades to kind of follow along the terrain a little bit, or allow it to cut a little bit harder. I don't know, I could always weld that solid if I find I don't want it. Some do have this, some don't have this. We'll find out with time. But yeah, I gotta trim the bottom of that, plate that some, and then I guess we can go test it. Oh, and I also have a Willow killer arm I'm gonna make out of a bunch of sickle mower blades. Well, let's see if this baby will start today. So I've been having issues right from day one with getting it to start and run and just all around behave. They've leaned out the motors like crazy to make them meet emissions, but by doing so, they don't start and idle and just all around behave when it's cold. So you only got 29 miles on here. So let's see what she does today. We're in neutral. Attempt 1, 2, 3, 4. No. So it does that. It'll idle up for just a second and then it idles down and it dies. There's also no RPM on this thing. You can't see. Oh, she died again. See? Like it just, as soon as it tries to idle down. But there's no RPM. There's no way to select RPM on here, which is annoying. That's 6. My main concern is that you're gonna have it where you just keep starting it so many times, it's gonna kill the battery, right? It's just, or the starter, it's hard, you know, whirling it over. I also need to get thinner oil put in here, but I have to wait till I have 200 kilometers, get the braking oil out, then they can put in thinner oil, which should help a little bit. The old 400 over there, that thing right now, I bet you a full choke, touch the key, it would start. Because I am smarter than the computer. Right, I think it's gonna run. Thank God. So this will be prototype 3. So prototype 3 here, trying it with the quad on tracks. I flipped my hitch the other way around, so I'm extra tall, which then should give me more adjustability now. So you can see this is kind of level, so to speak, on the unit. And then with the turn buckle here, so that's contracted. So we can go longer So then as this extends now, you see how as this distance increases, it's pushing the weight down onto the hitch of the quad, and then it's going to lift my blades up for me now. So now if I just want to go around panning, so basically just the back of it touching, when you extend this out, that should keep the front up, and then it won't be dragging all the snow and cutting. And so this is kind of my first test. I think you're just limited to adjustability on these binders, load binders. I think that's about as much as I want to push it. So you can see now that's kind of level, but then look at the distance I have underneath here now. I've got probably 6 or 8 inches, so even my back blades aren't touching. And it's just going to be the greater blade on the back. And then also, what we're going to test is I got my brusher arm built. So it's about 6 foot-ish tall. And just got 1x2 rectangle tube, put on a whole bunch of the sickle mower sections or blades, whatever you want to call it. And then what I did, which is a bit different than most guys do, most guys make it solid, but I hook trees all the time. So my last one, I just had it spring loaded. I had a chain link here and a post with a chain link here and a spring. So it would extend back, but what was happening is it would go backwards and then fly ahead so fast that it would snap the welds off of the bottom, or it was breaking the actual frame of the unit. This one now, with the snowmobile shock in here, see if I can show you. So now this will have some give to it, but it's not as violent. So it'll come back. It's basically pulling as hard as I can, and then it flies back up. So that's an old shock off of my old Franken sled. So I just made up some brackets, slapped it in there. It ain't pretty, but I think it'll work. So far, so good. We're gonna get through this section. This is where we cut all the trees out. So this is off camber and very wavy, so see what she does. Got some big old deer stomping through here too. Yeah, the willow cutter arm, so far, it's definitely been cutting stuff. The idea is it gets into these blades and then cuts it off. But I did put it slightly angled back. I saw on one of the forums a guy had done a similar thing. And I guess the idea is that if it does try and catch, it's got more of a glancing blow. It'll ricochet off. I went a little steeper than him just because on these blades, if you lay it back all the way, then the tops of these aren't really cutting anything, right? If you tilt it ahead and you get, you know, top and bottom are grabbing the willows and cutting. All this kind of stuff is I was just using scraps. That's 2 different pipes I scabbed together and all random stuff we had lying around. Well, that was a dead hook on a chunk of bedrock. So the back corner there went right into a crack and just stopped me dead, but I don't think anything broke, not that I can see. only thing that I'm noticing is that I'm definitely catching more rock and bedrock, but I think it's because I have it weighted down on the back because the front is lifted. So it's digging in my two guides or whatever you want to call it, the kind of skegs I have, keep it from sliding one way or the other. So when you're on a side hill, it'll cut in and hold itself from moving over. But you gotta remember, I only have like 6-8 inches of snow right now and I haven't packed it or anything. So this is just, I'm trying to pan it. Picture this, just cruising along, grooming, you know, just daydreaming, thinking about all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden, boom, stop dead. Look at this thing. I hooked like what's gotta be a, I don't know, 2 foot by 3 foot boulder or a chunk of bedrock or whatever the heck this thing is. Oh my goodness. That's yeah, it's a rock. Well, I got her. Bit of a hole now. I'm not cold anymore. Well, I appear to have found a limitation. Even with front diff lock slipping on the icy rock. We had freezing rain earlier this year, so it's just sliding me over. Like I was already spinning here and it's just basically glare ice. At this point I'm just screwing around seeing what I can and can't do while there's not that much snow, so I don't get buried doing something stupid. So far, cutter arm's been working pretty well. Has a sawing action as well, so you can see it either pulls them out or cuts them off. And then yeah, on the big trees, or if you hook like an actual tree, it'll flex back and then it slides around it. So, and it all has a little bit of play in it too. Like all the holes are just a little bit oversized, except for the bottom one here, but the ones for the shock are, I think it's a 7/16 hole and a 3/8 bolt. So it all has a little bit of jiggle to it just to let it, you know, push itself around the trees. Oops. Hooked that big branch, I guess. Cuts the edges off. Oh, I got a tree down here. Dang it. Well, Groomer is doing what I hoped it to do so far. I did try it on the driveway, dropping the blades where I've been going with the truck and plowed already, so it's very, very hard pack, and it was actually cutting pretty well and flattening it out. The brusher arm, it's working, I mean, about as good as a brusher arm can work. You see all the branches and stuff. I keep taking them off of here. I actually ripped out a huge one over there, you can see that. But I figured I'd show you. So this is where I came through two directions now. So you can see how those teeth, they definitely mangle them up. You can see all the fresh cut marks. You can see like in there, so it pulled this one through and ripped off a bunch. It does definitely mess them up, and I mean, after doing multiple passes, it'll definitely start knocking down a lot of these. And if it was a lot colder, it'd be better too. Like right now, I think it's only -5, so it's super warm out. That's Celsius. If you get into like -25, -30, yeah, when the branches basically turn to glass at that temperature, and it would probably just snap them right off. Well, getting dark. I think that's a wrap. So I'm gonna call that a success. Once again, thanks for watching 80 Acres. My name's Mitch, and I'll see you guys next time.